we want to make sure that we keep it as a discussion. So if you have any questions, please do interrupt me and we'll go over those questions. If there's anything you want me to elaborate on, to focus on, not to touch on, again, we're going to be very dynamic about that. Let's start by how many of you actually know Acronis? Open mic. Worked with Acronis, have good opinion, bad opinion? Mostly the good opinion. Nobody. Okay. Well, we have to start somewhere, I guess. So Acronis has been around since 2003. We are a cyber protect, cybersecurity company. If you guys know us, most of you that know us from data replication, from backup. We started that business around 2003. Today we have two headquarters, one in Singapore, one in Switzerland. But we are global. So we're global. We have 1,700 employees around the world. Most of them work from home. We are 33 locations around the world. We are in 40 languages, and we sell our products in 150 countries. So all in all, a global company with very good traction, very good customer recurring business, as most of our business is subscription-based. So today we are somewhere around $300 million in billing and growing, 50% year over year. And we move a lot of the business to the cloud. So as I mentioned, we started in 2003 and we did data replication. If a lot of you probably remember Ghost, back at the time, you wanted to replicate your hard drive, your image, or create an image from a hard drive, you would use Ghost, or you would use Acronis Snap Deploy, which was the commercial version. So from that, somewhere around 2005, we moved from full image backups to incremental backup. So our backup solutions, the on-premise solutions, we ran with them until today. But around 2011, when everything moved to the cloud with Office 365 and before that with Salesforce.com, we moved our services to the cloud as well. So somewhere around 2012, we offered our services as SaaS, or backup as a service. And around 2014, 2015, we added disaster recovery. So if we can back up your server, your mission critical machine, if we can back it up in rapid enough succession, and run this image in a virtual environment on demand, we can offer alternatives to the primary machine or primary server with a secondary that runs from the cloud. So we offer that service since 2014 till today. And we added cyber protection. Cyber protection is a whole slew of solutions that addresses data security or digital asset security in a whole different way, and we'll go through that. Any questions about Acronis, what we do? Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, feel free to ask questions along the way. We'll do our best to answer them as we go and stop as needed. You can put them both in the chat window as well as the Q&A section. We'll monitor both of them.
So we build our business around 5 vectors of customer success. So around safety, accessibility, privacy, authenticity, and security. Safety is how we protect your data. We protect the data first through replication, but we also add multi-tiers of protection. So not just data replication, not just backup, because backup is great, but kind of you never want to be to go to the last resort and restore from backup. You want to make sure that if it's ransomware, if it's phishing, if it's whatever it is, you block it before it damages the machine, before it tarnishes your company's reputation. So what we added is an antivirus up front and a whole stack of solutions that are cyber protect. And one of them is zero-day patch management. Another one is RMM that sits in front of the endpoint. And of course, an antivirus and an AI engine that enable us to monitor in real time any access to files that is unauthorized access and block this access and revert back to backups or backups of backups. So we keep a few versions of the same backup. So that's around safety. But also around accessibility, we allow our customers to access the data that they saved. You know, if it's your cell phone that we back up, if it's your desktop, if it's your laptop that you back up, all of that can be accessed in its native environment. So for example, if it was Exchange and you backed it up, your Exchange server, through our solution, the IT person can drill down to the email level without needing to load this image to a different machine, to a different virtual or physical machine, access the image itself, access the attachment level, the email level, and if it was a file, access the file level. Let's say if it was Office 365 compatible file like Word, Excel, and so on, you can see them within our own environment instead of needing to take them outside. As far as privacy, all data is encrypted in delivery from the machine to the cloud, encrypted in the cloud. In delivery, it's 128-bit encryption. In the cloud, 256-bit encryption. But also in the cloud, we take the data and we use distributed ledger technology to distribute the data in a way that is not recoverable without the customer on premise. So we don't have access to the customer data. Nobody else should have access to the customer data. That's how we allow privacy. And the other tier on top of that is that we sign the customer data. Every backup copy is signed through, we use Atrium, but we use distributed ledger technology. We use blockchain technology to sign the customer data. So we know for sure that whatever was saved 5 years ago is exactly the same copy that we're opening, and nobody was able to go in, manipulate the data, change it. So always be able to recover from trusted source. And same goes for authenticity. So we use the same technology to enable MSPs or to enable customers to sign files, to sign the log files of the system, to sign files that they exchange with their customers. You can take a file, you can select in order, which is the name of the product that we have, and sign this file. That takes the file, get an e-signature from Ethereum in this case, or other public blockchain registrars, and save this signature of the file with the file so we can make sure that this file was not manipulated. All of that gives us the security that we expect from our digital assets to make sure that we know that they are safe. There's always plan B, and we can always make sure that nobody manipulated them at any time. But when we build all those 5 vectors, we kept in mind to make sure that our products are easy to use, have total cost of ownership, which is low, because that's very important. If the product is too expensive, you guys as MSPs know that if the product is too expensive or taxing my CPU, taxing my battery on my phone too high, I will stop using it, especially now in days of Corona. If it doesn't provide, there's no slack. Customers will shut down services that are not providing too expensive or not, the cost benefit is not there. Through our products, we increase the security, and that's why it's the middle pillar here. This is what we want to make sure, that every business that is served by us, we increase their security, we make sure that we secure their digital asset without taking control from them and the MSPs that are managing them. So as an MSP, you will be able to control MSPs below you if there is a tier below you, and also manage all the customers that are below you. So you will able to see all the payloads that they have. You will be able to manage the payloads that they have, get alerts from different devices that they have on their network, and all of it comes to a central control panel for you. So you get full control of customers' digital assets. And reliability, of course, if the product is not working. We had a call today with a very large MSP from Canada, and they said that they used to use Symantec, and then what they found out that back at the time, anytime that there was an issue with a customer, the first thing that they will do will shut down Symantec, and they found out that Symantec was causing more issues than actually protecting against viruses. So we want to make sure that we are not known for that. We want to make sure that our solution is doing what it's supposed to do, reliable, and very low on CPU resources, very low on energy consumption. Okay. The platform that we build is not just platform for customers. As I mentioned, this is a multi-tier, multi-tenant type of environment. So it's built for customers. It was built from the ground up for customers, but also we understand that no company, maybe Microsoft, but even Microsoft is not selling direct to all their customers. We need to enable multi-tier, multi-tenant. So we build it for customers, but we also enabled the multi-tier control. So our solution is well suited for partners, from billing, from audit, from logs, from control. Is built for partners like you. It's also built for developers. So we have full public APIs, full set of public APIs that you can use to, let's say, take our alert bus and present it on your HUD. If you have a data center, if you have a HUD where you see all the alerts from your customers, everything, all our solutions are API driven. All our solutions can be either OEM'd or white labeled into your offering. And we kind of eat our own dog food. So if I'm looking at this pillar here, our solutions start from the infrastructure level. So we have our own, if you guys are familiar with Virtuoso, which is our own company. So Virtuoso is providing us the infrastructure as a service layer. Virtuoso is the one that actually invented containers back at the time. So we use containerized, virtualized environment to run our own data center, and we'll go through this slide in a second. All the 18 data centers that we have around the world are powered by our own infrastructure, and you guys as an MSPs, you can use this technology to run your own data center if you have on-premise deployments for virtualization. And all in all, we have our professional services arm. If you guys need help with backup, with migration, with whatever it is, we have our professional services that can be extended as your arm for certain projects. Okay, any questions? Okay.
Yeah, we do have one question around, when you do an image of a server or a PC and you upgrade to a new server or PC, will Acronis restore to that device?
Yes, in a way. Depends on how severe. Well, so we're doing constant imaging of the machine, or constant backup of the machine. So we can assume that after the whatever it is, patch was installed, or there was a full upgrade of the operating system, same operating system but an upgrade, a new image will be created. If that failed, with our solution, you can always go back. But I think the question was, if you had an old image, you cannot upgrade an image. So I'm not really sure I'm following 100% on the question. So if you had a backup, the backup is a stamp, is a replication of what was then. We cannot upgrade within the image itself. We can inflate it on a machine or virtual environment, then upgrade the image, then save it back. I don't know if it answers that question.
If it's a new piece of hardware. So if you restore, can you restore it to a new piece of server or PC hardware?
Yeah, of course. So our images are in a way bare metal. So you can take an image and inflate it back on a bare metal machine. Depends on how it was saved. If it was saved as a full image, then you can take it to a bare metal machine, or you can take it to a virtualized environment and inflate it there. But it will not include the backups, the updates that were done on the original machine, because it just says timestamp of when the image or when the backup was done. Does that answer it for whomever answered the question?
I believe it does.
Okay. So as I mentioned, and we can go a little bit deeper into that later on in the Q&A session. As I mentioned, it's a multi-tenant, multi-tier environment. Today we are managing 250,000 service provider or MSPs around the world. And we have them from any size to any size. So we have MSPs that are running monthly recurring revenue or expense with us to the tune of $200,000 a month. And we have MSPs that are, have one or two customers with us, and that's fine as well. So we give tools to all the tiers of MSPs to make them successful and to make them serve their customers better. We provide the provisioning, we provide the billing, and 25,000 security MSPs or SSPs are using our services for that. We provide all the audit, all the quotes, all the tools that, again, enable you to provide cyber protect services. And we can do it on our own storage, the Acronis storage, or we can do it on AWS, Azure, and other third-party storage providers. As I mentioned also, we can white label our services or our products. We can integrate them. We can OEM them into a solution that you guys are bringing to market, same that we've done with Uplevel systems. And Upsell ready, Uplevel is a good example. You guys can bundle our services with your own professional services, with your own deployment services. So we are a good upsell and revenue generation tool that you can put to create stickiness with your customers, but also increase the average revenue per user of the customer. As I mentioned, we have 18 data centers that using our own technology from the ground up. We have another 5 data centers today that are using either Google or Azure technology, but we can work with our own credentials. So those ones, those 5, using our own credential, our own invoicing with Microsoft and with Google. But if you have Azure, if you have Google, if you have IBM, if you have other third-party providers, or your customer already have storage that they bought from Azure and they need to use it, we can use that storage to be the destination for the backup. So it doesn't have to go to Acronis, the backup. It can go to third parties. It can go to customer on-premise. We are very flexible about that. Okay. Our cyber protection have 3 NOCs around the world, kind of follow the sun, follow the light, which allows us to get news about zero-day attacks, about natural disasters in different parts of the world, and update all our clients, all the agents that running on all the endpoints in real time about cyber threats. So for example, if there's a flooding in Singapore, if there's flooding in Singapore, we can notify all the mission critical servers to automatically move from primary to secondary machine that can be somewhere else outside of Singapore. So we can continue the work of these mission critical servers in an automatic script that the MSP can create for their customers. If we know about zero-day attack that, let's say, happened in Europe, we can release a patch that will update the different agents that we have around the world for this zero-day attack, and we can patch different, it's not just patching our own software, it's patching whatever software. We have a whole stack of software that we can update, and we'll go through that in a second. Any questions about that? Okay. So as I mentioned, Acronis Cyber Infrastructure is the key element. It's kind of the base, the bedrock for what we do. And that's how we run our data center. On top of data centers, on top of that, we have our cyber platform that manages the multi-tenancy, manage the billing, manage the deployment of services. And this is the full service stack. So we have Acronis Cyber Backup, which you guys are probably familiar with, disaster recovery, the in-order, the ability to blockchain sign backups, files, and so other. Cyberfile, which is like a Dropbox or DocuSign all together. So that's the ability of you guys, the MSP, to install a file system, cloud file system for your customer that they can use for sharing files, for signing files, that is just around their business. It can be on-premise, and of course, it could be part of our cloud. And then cyber monitoring is the same tool that we're using for our cyber disaster recovery, which allows us to monitor in real time the health of the servers that the customer has on their on-premise or in our own cloud. And so on and so forth. There are a lot of products that we have. I'm not going to go through all of them unless you guys have questions about specific ones that you see here in the list. Okay. This is the same slide, just a little bit more information. So we will provide you with this slide deck. And again, we'll accommodate any questions over email later on. If you're interested in any of those products that we didn't mention today, we can expand on that over email or in the Q&A portion. I think that will touch on the question that we had as far as the ability to migrate from one environment to another. So Acronis, or back at the time Parallels, which was again part of Acronis, it was able and still able to move one image from one environment to another environment. So for example, if I created an image over VMware, I can move it with Acronis to be, so the same image that was saved, I don't know, 2 years ago, I can take this image and inflate it back on Zen, or I can take a KVM and move it to Citrix and so on. So I don't know if it answered that, but it allows us flexibility. So as customers are moving from one environment to the other, they're not losing the ability to reuse those images or create a new golden image from the old one in the new environment. Okay, so in general, those are all the different environments that we have agents for backup and agent for virtualization for. Okay. Now we're getting into cyber protect. What is cyber protect? What are we protecting against? So what we're protecting against is all those vectors. So what is the damage to the customer? What is the impact on the customer? So 25% system downtime, 8% reputational damage, and so on. So we know that customers are being affected by cyber threats. We know that there's no customer that wasn't affected, and if there is one, it's just a matter of time. So your job as MSPs is to be able to protect those customers. Your job as MSPs is to provide the tools to the customer that will protect them, but will not tax the customer price-wise or CPU and other too much. And you will need to be able to provide it for the diverse work environment. So in some cases, it's remote offices. In days of Corona, everything is remote offices. But even enterprises that have remote offices still have cloud servers or on-premise servers that need protections. So cloud servers, hosted servers, we can protect both of those. We can protect the desktops. We can protect the mobile devices. So all of those endpoints are being protected, can be protected by Acronis. All of those are targets of hackers, or target of phishing, target of other cybersecurity threats. Okay. So with Acronis, we wanted to make sure that our solution encompasses together all the different tools that are needed to protect the endpoints. Of course, you can do it with different tools in the market. You can use one solution for antivirus, another one for patch management, another one for RMM, and so on and so forth. If we can find one solution that brings it all together, we can make sure that it's not a complex one to manage, it's not a complex one to own. And as an MSP, the major currency that, or the major cost that you guys have is the ratio between the number of technicians to the number of customers you have. If we can have a technician being able to support more than 2, 3, 4, 5 customers, now this technician is generating more revenue for us. So if we can make sure that all the cyber protect, all the cyber security stack is one solution, one knowledge base, one customer experience, then we make it less complex, very easy for a technician to support, centralized management, everything works together, all the ticketing is working together, the patch management, the RMM, so it makes it less complex. Makes it less complex, the engineer technician can do more, make sure that your business is less expensive. Less expensive, you can have more customers, generate more revenue, and because all the tools are working together, there are no SIMs between the tools. It means that no unprotected portions of the business. So you get a more secure solution altogether. Okay. What we offer as kind of a expansion to the slide before is backup and recovery. Okay. Anti-malware, and security and management for the cybersecurity stack. With all of that, you can see here the different products that are coming together under one umbrella, which is vulnerability assessment. We give each customer, or we give you the tools to give each customer their vulnerability score. So you can tell for sure this customer is 8.9, this customer is 5. That's what we need to do to bring them up to speed. Patch management, very important. Anti-ransomware, anti-malware reporting. You get real-time reporting of your customer status. Health and performance monitoring, again, real-time. Remote management and assistance, all coming from the same tool. And of course, last resort, backup and disaster recovery. Okay, so from here, I'll ask if there are any questions.
Anyone have any questions about any of that? Feel free to put them in that chat window or in the Q&A section, or feel free to raise your hand. Either one.
All right, so why sell Acronis? The reason why we sell Acronis is I know that Uplevel system provide you a very efficient backup destination, but it's in a way limited in size. If you want to have, in a way, unlimited storage for your backups, if you want to expand on your revenue potential from a customer, if you want to lower the cost of supporting a customer, those are all good reasons why you should work with Acronis. So we provide a proactive protection, active protection, and reactive protection. All those three pillars will expand or will increase the services that you're delivering to your customer, and all in all, will maximize the number of payloads, workloads that that you can protect per your expense, per the number of technicians that you have. Okay, and with all of that, you can provide your customer a better service. Okay, and with that, what I'll do is I'll show you the product, and we can go from there to a Q&A session. Is that okay? I assume so. Usually we have interactive sessions, so that's why I'm asking a lot of questions. Usually we do, it's not a webinar, we do kind of a very interactive, and I'm sure that a lot of you have questions, but we'll answer those in a second. Let me just share my screen here. I'll share my browser. Okay. And I assume you guys see my browser right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is our portal. So when a customer comes in, so this is a view from a customer level. So AAA Design sits below an MSP, and this customer have all those products. So they have the cyber protect, the physical data shipping. So let's say this customer wants to seed the cloud, or they, for whatever compatibility reasons, they still have to use backup tapes. You can send them to us. We load them to the cloud for you. File sync and share. That's the cloud file system that I mentioned. eNotary or Notary is where you can sign file, and management portal is where you can add partners. You can add customers under. So any tier can be an MSP tier, can be a directory which includes MSPs or customers, or can be customers and end users. So if we are here, we're seeing that everything that happens below AAA Design. So we can see how many workstations are being protected, how many virtual machines, how many Office 365 are mailboxes or SharePoint are being backed up. We also see the capacity of backup on our local storage and the capacity of storage on the cloud locations. And those cloud locations can be different locations. Could be MSP driven locations. So MSP either got space on Azure, on Google, or have it in their own data center, or got a QNAP device and put it in storage, or just using the storage in the Uplevel system itself, and that will be the destination for the backup. So it shows you the different repositories of data And we can assign a repository per customer. We can say this customer can back up to that location, and that customer can back up to another location, and so on. Creating a customer is a very simple process. Of course, it can be done, well, right now we're in the customer level, so I can only create users under me. But in general, it's a very simple process that can be done through the interface itself, or can be done through API integration. So if you already have Active Directory mechanism to add customers, for example, that can interact directly with our system to add more customers. Okay, so I can see from here the usage in my organization. I can see the operations control panel once it's loaded here. I can see the different organizational units that I have. So here under operations, I see the different machines that are doing backup. Some of them are virtualized, some of them are not. I can see the activities around the different dates and so on. Alerts history. Again, all of that can be also reflected through API to whatever display that you have or whatever reporting system that you have. Okay, so activity list and so on. From here, I can see reports. So I can see usage reports, I can see operation reports, I can send them as an email, I can download them and so on. I can see audit reports, see who made changes to the system, very important. Customers will call you and say, somebody deleted this machine backup. You need to be able to tell them who's done that. And you can see it from here. So you can see exactly what each login have done to the system. And under settings, you can also define your own security, how you want this control panel to be managed. Customers can block access from the top. So if a customer is saying, look, I like you as an MSP, but I don't want you to see activities on my system, they can block you. That was added through customer and partners request. So if a customer select to block it, you will not be, as an MSP, be able to see to the tier below them. And API clients, as I mentioned, everything can be driven through API. So you can create an API client from here and be able to retrieve data or inject data into the system through API. If we go from here to the cyber protection control panel, you would see here a little bit more telemetry about the system, but also more control over the endpoints, the devices in the system. So let's give it a second to load. And good time to ask, are any questions? If there are any questions, as Robin said, put them in the QA or raise your hand or just put them in the chat. Okay. So what we can see here is a little bit different representation of the data, but also ones that includes the cyber protect side of things. So I can come here to, for example, disaster recovery, find the server that I want to move from primary to secondary. So right now I see the primary servers. Okay, so that I have two primary servers and I can choose to take a server and put it in recovery mode, take a server, power it on, power it down, see what is the plan. So I can create different plans to move this service from primary to secondary. Let's say that we have a maintenance that is going every Saturday. And so I can create a plan that this server is going to secondary every time we have an update. I can do just a test to see if my primary is falling to secondary and back with no ill effects. So all the control over my server or mission critical machines is done from here. I can manage my file sync and share to create all kind of policy and limitations. Let me go to control panel. Second, where is the control panel here? Administration console. So manage my my virtualized file system for the organization. So I can decide what files I'm not allowing in the system, what I'm allowing, what's the maximum allowed size, and so on. So all kind of management directly from here for my virtualized file system. If I go back from here, just a second, this is blocking my view. I go back to my centralized control panel, again, I can go back to cyber protection, and under cyber protection here, I can look at the rest of the functionalities. But again, all of that will reflect your customers, and all of that will allow you to sell different products. So it's not all or nothing. You can sell backup separately from disaster recovery. You can sell cyber protection separately from backup. So per customer needs, and we will work with you guys to, at least in the first few sales, to figure out what a customer needs. We'll do price exercises with you to know how we can price it correctly for your customers, so you will deliver the right set of features and functionalities to cover your customer needs, and make sure that the pricing is correct, so you maximize your revenue and you minimize the customer expense. Okay, so we talked about disaster recovery. We will talk about plans, so you can create different policies for different organizational group as far as backup. What is being backup? What is the backup? What is the backup? You know, how much, how many hours, how many days? What is the granularity of the backup, and so on. So if I'll move this here, and if we look at this backup plan, for example, we can drill down to the granularity of this backup plan, and we can see what devices are actually using this backup plan. Okay, so backup policy, so here we go. So what to backup? In this case, it's the entire machine. Where to backup? This is the storage. So you can see in this case, it's actually storing to an SMB, not even a cloud backup. So this SMB could be the backup or the location at the Uplevel system. We can decide what is the schedule, how many snapshots to keep. So right now it keeps 10 backups. So if there is, if all failed, or you didn't sell the customer cyber protection, but just backup, and the first version was compromised, you can always go back to as many versions as you want that saved. And you can create different locations. So you can say, I want to keep the first copy on the Uplevel system, second copy for security reasons, since the Uplevel device and the customer devices are all in the same place. A lot of time you want to create a backup that is not in the same brick and mortar. So in our case, we can have a second location, which will be cloud storage. Okay. And then I can use, it's been used, so I cannot change it, but I can use this plan and replicate it, or use it as my kind of template to create other plans, enhance on that, and send it to the device to practice this policy. Okay. The images that are created in our backup are images that we can run in a virtualized environment. So I can come here, for example, and select an image that was saved, and say to run it in a virtualized environment. Okay, so I can take any of these images and just spin this image, so I can run it, use it as something that is a secondary machine that runs in the cloud, and use it for whatever needed, maybe to get files out, maybe to update a golden image, and so on. Okay, the patch management solution is something that can be fully automated, or can be manual. So I can come here, check all the updates that I want, and for example, I have this patch that came from Microsoft, and decide to install patch. That will send it to whatever machines that were under this patch, and we'll make sure that those machines are up to date with this patch. As I mentioned, we can automate those patches. So for example, if it comes from Microsoft, make sure that all machines are being patched. If it comes from whatever third party that we want to test first, we will test first. Now, if it combined with backup, and we have 10 versions behind or 3 versions behind, we can rest assured that if the patch did not work, we can always have a backup to fall back into. Okay. As far as the file sync and share when it's fully used, the file sync and share from customer perspective can not only reflect the file, virtualized file system, but can also bring resources and storage location. For example, here you see SharePoint, we can have SMB shares. So all of that is brought into one location where the end user can tap into different component or different file repositories of the company with policies that are driven by IT or by the MSP in this case, okay? So if I'm here, if I'm seeing my own files or files that and folders that were shared with me, I can select which ones I want to synchronize to my machine. So you see, for example, this directory, I can browse into it, but it's not synchronized to my machine because, to be honest, I'm running on a Mac. I don't need all of that on my own hard drive. So in this case, I will just have access to it because it was shared with me, but I'll choose not to sync it up to my machine. So you see this one is not synced to my machine. And in contrast, this one is synced to my machine. So I can, again, I can do the same with each one of them, but each one of them have different set of credentials and share policies. So because this one is mine, I can select that. I can email a link to that, so to anybody, or I can get an immediate link, which will be either a public link, one that is can shared internally in the company, and one that can expire. So I can decide that this expire in 1 day or this expire immediately after the first time, get this link and share it with whomever that can take this file. Okay, so that's for our file sync and share, and all of that sits on the same infrastructure. So you create your storage. Once you created your storage, you can start building service packs or solution packs on our own infrastructure, or in this case, it will be, let's say that you're an MSP that have their own, or you're an MSP/service provider. You can have your own data center with your own services coming from or built on the Acronis solution and expand it to your customers. That puts us in about 45 minutes into the hour. And I think from here, I'll open it for open mic questions.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, you can either raise your hand, put it into the chat window, or put it into that Q&A, and we'll allow you to talk, or just read them aloud. If anyone has any questions about any of this, about Uplevel, about Acronis, now is the time to ask.
Okay. So we have 29 participants. If you're not going to raise your hand, I'm going to randomly release your microphone and ask you questions. All right. Well, let me see.
Here we go. So we'll start one by one. Dave, do you have a question?
Yeah, so what exactly, how is this fitting in with Uplevel? Are you guys like installing this on Uplevel systems and shipping them out, or like, how is this all tying into Uplevel?
Yeah, so we're doing really 3 different things. Number one, you can use Acronis to point to the Uplevel gateway for the backup solution so that you have an on-site replication in the office with you, as well as any sort of cloud replication that you would like to do. It's allowing us to then replicate servers and have images on site for customers that Uplevel wasn't previously providing. We are simplifying the billing aspect of it, so it is all under the Uplevel umbrella, and most importantly, supporting it, right? So we're bringing the support in to help troubleshoot any issues and simplify the deployments down to a granular level.
Can you still hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
So, I mean, Uplevel has a backup. Well, if you get their
the NAS.
Yeah, the NAS piece, or the one with the storage on it. I mean, that has replication to their cloud, right? So how's that?
Yeah, but what we're not doing is server and PC replication.
Right.
So if you have a server or PC on site, we're not currently replicating it. We're only replicating what is located on the file server on the gateway. So this is allowing us to replicate those PCs and servers over to our NAS, right? Or to the Acronis, where you can then virtualize that server or PC. So it's taking the bit of backup that we currently do and expanding it dramatically much further out of the Uplevel
So you guys can be the storage target for.
That is correct.
For local, correct. And then you can still replicate that to the Uplevel cloud, but with the Acronis backups, you can actually virtualize the machines.
Can you virtualize those machines on the Acronis NAS, or do you have to have a local hypervisor to fill?
No, so you can replicate it directly into our cloud. So in our cloud itself, we have our own hypervisor or virtualized environment where you can run those images in our own environment. So you don't need to you don't need VMware, you don't need any other licenses to run a virtualized environment.
And where's that bill coming from? Is that coming from Uplevel, or is that coming from Acronis?
Correct.
It will all come from Uplevel.
Yeah, so we've simplified it all down.
So will you guys be sending out like pricing sheets on how that all the pricing
Yes.
translates when you do it this way and you fell over to the Acronis cloud and all that stuff? Like,
Oh, yeah.
okay. And then what about for like the local? So if you have a local hypervisor, you can just fail over back to the local hypervisor from.
So what do you mean if you have a local hypervisor? So if you have a virtualized machine running in your own environment, and this machine, for whatever reason, stopped responding to ping, you're saying what?
Let's say that local machine crashes, right? It crashes, or building catches on fire and burns up.
Yep.
But you need to get back up locally quickly instead of or let's just say you do have a backup hypervisor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm replicating those over to the Uplevel NAS, right? So I've got those images on the NAS. If I bring in another hypervisor there locally, can I just fill them over back to that hypervisor? I'm sorry, guys. I'm at home right now. My kids are yelling.
No problem. No problem.
So basically, can I just fell over from the Uplevel NAS, fell over to another hypervisor that I bring in, or even have beside?
Our disaster recovery solution is a disaster recovery solution that work with the machine wherever it is, or the mission critical server, wherever it is, being backed up to our cloud. And when it fails, when we know that the primary machine failed, when or you as an MSP or you as the customer decided to move services from primary, which is on-premise, to secondary, which is in our own cloud, it has to be in our own. What I'm trying to say, the secondary or where the images are saved have to be in our own cloud. Because if you back up a server for disaster recovery, it means that you back up the whole machine, the whole storage, because once it fails, you want to have all the components in a secondary location. You cannot just say, oh, I'm only going to back up incremental, or I'm only going to back up the OS. And then if anything happened, I'm going to load just from the OS, because you don't really know if something failed, you don't know where it's going to fail. So when you create a secondary to the primary, you want to make sure that it's 100% replication of the primary. So if the primary fails, you have a secondary location, which is not the same location. If it's the same location and you lost power and the UPS is down, then you didn't achieve anything. So usually with disaster recovery, you want to make sure that where the secondary is 100% different environment, where it's protected and still can serve your customers or whoever was approaching being served by the server. Make sense?
Yeah, I get that, but I'm just saying, like, so I'm coming from Datto Unitrans Accident, right? That has like a typical setup is a local hypervisor or local appliance that's backing up to that, and then it replicates to the cloud, right? Yep. So if the host, goes down or crashes or burns or whatever, and that local appliance say in a separate building, you can just fire those up on that appliance. So like what I'm saying in this instance, if you had the Uplevel NAS that is backing up the images, right?
Yeah.
You're backing up to it as a storage target. But then you have another box locally, say in another building, or even if I bring a box in, like at the time of the crash, if I run a box over there that has a hypervisor on it, if I can restore to that hypervisor.
Well, so it all depends on how much time you're allowing yourself between when the machine crashed to when you need the service to be up. If we're looking at less than 10 minutes from a full catastrophe to a full recovery or full service up, then your solutions will not provide for that. So yes, theoretically with Acronis, if you create a full backup of a machine, this full backup can run on bare metal or can run on any other virtualized environment. So theoretically, you can put it on a USB stick if it's big enough, take it to another building, stick it to a virtualized environment, and run this image as the machine. But again, assuming that all the networking was set up ahead of time, that you created all the redirect from primary to secondary so the traffic will flow correctly. If you didn't set all of that, so yes, you can access the machine, but the machine will not be functioning as secondary to the primary.
Okay.
Okay, so what we offer, our disaster recovery offer a whole different ballgame. We are saying this is back-to-back real-time failover. So if you have your e-commerce server and you have, I don't know, 200 transactions coming a second, and this machine goes down, you want to make sure that you're not losing this business. The only way you're not losing this business is that if there's a standby machine that have a real-time copy of the primary machine, that when the primary fails, all traffic is being redirected a second hop to the secondary machine. And this secondary machine, once it identifies that primary failed, is up and running and ready to receive transactions. That is real-time, or that's a real disaster recovery, not just I'm going to take an image and then I'm going to put it on a different machine, walk to another building. It's not real-time. So yes, you can do it with Acronis, but our disaster recovery is a little bit more advanced than that. Okay?
Okay, we have another question around what if you're already working directly with Acronis and you also work with Uplevel? You can still obviously continue working directly with Acronis. You can still continue working directly with Uplevel. If you have deployments with Uplevel involved and you want to simplify the bills together, you can go through Uplevel for that specific deployment, but you can also continue going directly through Acronis. There's no cross-contamination or issue.
Yeah, and we can migrate. Let's say that you work through Ingram Micro for Acronis and you want to be migrated to work under Uplevel system to work with Acronis. We have a process for that. You fill up a form and we will migrate you from one provider to another. So we are it's totally transparent to us who you want to work with. It's totally your choice as an MSP.
Yeah, and it looks like John also has a question, so I will go ahead and unmute you, John. If you would like to answer or ask your question, we can answer it for you.
I see that John is asking about dissimilar hardware. So yes, as I mentioned with our disaster recovery, it's not that you will back up a server or you will have a disaster recovery plan for server and we will run to, I don't know, whatever, wherever you buy computers to. Let's say we'll run to Best Buy to buy the same hardware to stand up a replica. So we know how to work with dissimilar hardware. Actually, we are the original owners of a company called Parallels back at the time. So we know how to decouple the driver layer and work with dissimilar hardware. So take an image from one environment and move it to another environment. Take one image from Zen and move it to KVM and that way around, if that answers your questions. Oh, see that he said that I just answered. So I guess I did. Any other questions?
Anyone else have any other questions that we can answer?
So what I think we'll do, we can have a follow-up session in a week or two to go over pricing, service bundling, and answer any questions We will also send the PowerPoint to you guys, so you'll have some material to read. I know that we all at home and dying to have something to read. So we'll send that to you guys. And again, if there are any questions, please feel free between now and the next time we meet to send them to us, and we'll be more than happy to answer those.
Yes. One final question, it looks like, is can a WordPress hosted environment be imaged?
Yes, depends on, if I remember correctly. And again, I'm a salesperson, so I'm going to step here. But theoretically, if it wasn't clustered, if I remember correctly, so there's some limitations. We need to know a little bit more about the WordPress environment and the version of WordPress. But in general, yes. Again, coming from Odin back at a time where WordPress was one of the major payloads that we virtualized. I know for sure that it was able to virtualize, and it was able to back up, and it was able to recover. But if there's more specifics, and John, if you want to send me the specifics about this deployment, I can send it to the engineers to make sure that I give you the right answer.
Okay, awesome. So I think with that, we've answered all of the questions. As Ronnie mentioned, if anyone has any, please feel free to reach out to Uplevel or Acronis directly. We'll send out both of our contact information in the follow-up email, as well as the deck. We also recorded today's session, so we'll put it up on YouTube and send that out as well. So feel free to ask any questions. Other than that, thank y'all for joining us this afternoon. If anyone has anything else, we will go ahead and sign off for the day and talk to y'all soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.